Well, welcome to IlliniGuys Halftime Live. This is Mike Kegley with Kedrick Prince. Kedrick, right now, Michigan looks to be a little bit more athletic, a little bit stronger, and I also think they have more guys who can create off the dribble by themselves.
Well, Mike, it's an interesting first half. Illinois is not shooting the ball very, very well right now, which does not bode well for them. They are down 38-31 at home against a really, really good physical Michigan team. Right now, Colin Boswell he's been great for Illinois so far. The first half has 11 points on 5 of 9 shooting. Keaton Wagler has kind of been quiet at 2 of 6 for 6 points, Mike. But you need Keaton Wagler to score. I have another concern, and I don't know what's going on, but Andre Stojakovic can't get on the floor right now. Morris Johnson leads Michigan. He's dominating them with 13 points, but I don't understand. I'd like to see Andre on the floor a little bit more. I don't know what's going on with that. Illinois is played 5 or 6 people. I mean, not very many people. I mean, not very many. They've not gone to the bench much. Excuse me. Sorry, I got my tongue twister there. But this is a very, very physical game. And if Illinois has any hope of winning this game, they better make threes because they're not taking Michigan off the dribble. They're a good defensive team. And I don't think Michigan's played great. They haven't stopped Morez, but I don't think they play great yet either.
No, I don't think so either. I think the biggest challenge, of course, Michigan's shooting 45%, Illinois 39. A sub 40 shooting is not going to work against Michigan. I don't really know who's going to beat Michigan shooting sub 40%. Then when you look at Michigan only shooting 25% from the three, but that's better than Illinois shooting 21%. And then Michigan's made it to the free throw line more often, 11 free throws to 3. And they're 9 for 11, shooting 82%. And Illinois is 2 for 3, shooting 67. I'll tell you, the rebounds were tied at 17. That actually surprised me. Turnovers, Illinois has 7, Michigan has 6. And you've got the fast break points 10-0 on Michigan's advantage there. And you're looking at some of those issues. You've got steals 5 for Michigan, 3 for Illinois, 2 blocks each, assists 5-4. I think really Illinois they've got to get better 3-point shooting. If you want to talk about your shooting percentage and your ability to space the floor, when you're open, you got to hit the shot.
Yeah, you do. I mean, that's in a nutshell. You have to make shots, and I think just not this game, moving forward, Mike, if they are going to do what everybody seems to think that they're going to do in the tournament and have an opportunity to win games, they better make threes because I'm going to tell you the offense, if you look at it, and I'm not going to talk analytics. I could care less about that right now. Is bring the ball on the court, set a pick, and then you back the guy down, go one-on-one, or you take him off the dribble like Keaton has done. Like Kylan Boswell has done a few times. And I know a lot of people are making a big deal about Morez, and I'll be honest with you, I could care less about that. The only thing that interests me, and I think it's been pretty even. I mean, we're going to look at numbers, I guess. Morez has 13 points, and he has, 5 rebounds, but Merkovic has 7 points on 3 of 5 shooting and 7 rebounds. So I was not concerned about when Illinois lost him. I think it's easy to get lost what David has done this year. He's been pretty solid for Illinois. I think he's been great, and everybody's talking about this matchup between Keaton Wagler and Lindenberg for Player of the Year. Both guys are 2 for 6 from the field, and one has 5 and one has 6. I guess if there's one advantage, Lindenberg has 7 rebounds, and I guess if he wins Big Ten Player of the Year based on that, so be it. But I think it's a chess match. But like you said, Mike, they have to knock down threes. And I'm sorry, in a game like this, the most athletic player on Illinois' roster, I'm not saying talented, is Andre Stojakovic. He needs to be on the floor.
Well, Illinois obviously made him a very large part of their NIL funds and a very large part of their plans. And the last, month has been a rough one for him. I don't need to know what is, what they, I guess I can figure out what to do different to make things better for him. And I got to be honest with you, Yaxel, for everything you hear about him being real fun to be a teammate of, and he's made some stupid videos and had some moments that definitely make you wonder. He is showing that he can deal with a guard, and doing a good job on Wagler. I think the issue that Wagler's going to have to figure out is he's got to play through contact, but this is like trying to play through a linebacker, and that is, and they aren't calling much, which is going to make it a little harder on Wagler. So I think ultimately you got to figure out. I think they've got to start figuring out some ways if they're going to do some pick and rolls. Some guys are going to have to put on their shorts, their big boy pants, because if you're going to set a pick on Yaxel, you better be ready to get hit.
Well, if you want Andre to score, here's what I do. Get the ball out of his hand, do the pick and roll with him, and let him become a shooting guard. He's one of our best shooters. Okay, that's number one. And when he's going to the basket, pull up and shoot it. He's good at that. He's trying to get to the basket when there's a bigger guy on him, and then there's a 7'4" guy, and he is literally 7'4" waiting underneath the basket. Pull up and shoot the ball. I mean, I understand that he's a team player, and I get that, but there's opportunities where he can shoot the basketball. There's guys out there, no names mentioned, that I think that are shooting threes that probably shouldn't shoot as many as they are. I would take my chances with Keaton, number one. And people are saying that, Andre's struggling. He got a shot blocked once. So what? So did David. Colin turned the ball over once. This kid averages 13 points a game. You didn't bring him here to play him 3 minutes a game. This is a game where he can get out, he can guard, he's the one guy on a fast break get an opportunity who will challenge Michigan at the rim. This is a game where, you can see all the comments here. They're talking about athleticism. I'm not saying that Andre's best player on the team. Obviously, that award's going to go to Keaton Wagler. But the most athletic, it's a no-brainer. And he can defend. It's not like he's bad defending. So, and maybe he's hurt. We'll find out at the end of the game. Who knows? But I don't want to see them let them slip away because if they're not making threes, because Andre can get to the basket. And we know Tommy doesn't want anything to do with that part of the game at all, and so he's the one. And David is trying. He really is. I applaud his effort the first half. He doesn't wait. He's looking to score. And Colin has kept us in the game. Let's be honest. He's done a really, really good job of that.
Yeah, the bottom line is as you look at it right now, you've got an Illinois team that's down by 7. I think, if people were listening to the Sports Spectacular, we talked about it. I think Illinois needs to shoot 35% from the 3 to beat Michigan, maybe a little higher. They aren't anywhere near that right now. And I do think defensively, Illinois, has held Michigan on a pace to 78. So you're looking at a decent first half. You've got to play better offensively. And then the next thing is you're going to have to figure out how to get open. People have talked about it. You got to get open looks at the 3. And, I liked early when they got the ball into Tommy in the very first play of the game, get the ball inside. Of course, that's not been a big part of their game all year long. And we've complained about it, and that's probably not going to change now.
Mike, I like the comments here. I've seen a couple of Illinois isolates people. If you're going to isolate someone, it's Kylan Boswell. I understand that. I don't think that's Keaton's game. I think it's David's game. But if you're going to do it, that is Andre's game. Number one is isolation. And they're right. The guards are smaller. And if you're not going to take the ball out of Keaton's hands and let him do pick and pop, which is what I would do. I really would. He'd be the guy that I would do that with, because he can shoot the ball. And I don't think Keaton's lost his confidence. I think people, for me, from my perspective, everybody knows that's the head of the snake. Why do you think Eichenberg is guarding him? He's guarding him because he's Illinois' most dangerous threat on offense. But I don't like about him, I think sometimes he lets the game come to him instead of being aggressive. They need him to score. They really and truly do. I'm not sold. Yes, Morez turned out to be a really good player. But if you look at the system that Illinois is running, and I'm sorry, don't shoot the messenger. He doesn't fit what Illinois does on offense. He doesn't. Like it or not, he doesn't fit what they're doing. And he's a good player, Mike. But he can shoot a 3, but he's not doing that consistently like David. He's not as good as 3-point shooter as David. Because he shoots 1 or 2 doesn't mean he's good at it. And I don't – that's not his game. He's tougher on the basket.
Yeah, and again, I think it goes down to Morez. I think you needed that tough power forward, particularly on the defensive end. I would have loved to have had him. But at some point, you have to decide, how many times can you have an agreement with a family, and then the agreement isn't an agreement. So it is what it is.
Yeah, he's and
I
he's not coming back.
Yeah, no, I agree with that totally. I agree with that totally. Look, the bottom line is Illinois really has got to figure out how to get the open looks, and then they got to knock them down,
Knock him
and they've got
down.
to maintain the defense that they played in the first half. You held Michigan to sub 45% shooting. You were toe to toe with them on rebounds, and that is an impressive team to do that against. And I think you've got to figure out, what you're going to do. I thought Rickhouse had a really nice play, but only out there for a few minutes. And I thought Ivasic, Zranimir, one of his fouls, I thought was a little bit on the cheap side. And I thought he was mixing it up a little bit better. And I'd like to see him out there a little bit more as well. I just think he does intimidate people when they get towards the lane.
Mike, I want to look at a statistic. This is not including tonight's game. What made me think about this and look this up, somebody mentioned that this is Merez. Merez has only made 8 3-pointers on the year. And here's what I'm telling people about Styles. Do you realize David Merkovic is tied for third on the team with Illinois with threes? He's made 43 threes. Okay. He's made 43 versus Merez's 8. And then you talk about rebounding. David he has 215 rebounds. Believe it or not, he leads Illinois in rebounding. Their team, he has 215 rebounds on the season. And he has the best average of 7-7. So we can talk about Merez all we want. That's great. He's gone. And like I say, he's not coming back. But I just gave you numbers to where David is doing. And he's just serviceable. Yes, it looks good because, Merez looks like the Incredible Hulk. He's big, and that's great. And those dunks are great. But David is just as serviceable to me. So that's not why Illinois is going to win or lose. That's water under the bridge, not coming back. Merkovic is just a different player. And I'll be honest with you, in this system, you got to make threes. And this kid's made 43 versus 8. It's not even up for debate. Michigan's physical. And I'll tell you one more thing. I didn't look at the rebounding numbers, Mike, and I'm sure if you did give them to us, I apologize.
Yeah, 17.
I think there's Brad mentioned that you could see during one of the timeouts that they're getting out physicalized. I know that's no word on the glass. They have to become more physical. This taller team thing is great to read about, but utilize that size.
Yeah, and again, I think the other thing is if Yaxel's going to guard and going to be out there on Wagler, let's make him work. If I'm going to do a couple picks, I'm going to have Wagler, heck, even have him go across the top of the zone, across the 3-point line up there, and make him take a couple picks on every single play. You're going to have to dish some punishment out. And the other thing is Merck needs to use some of those 40-year-old man moves. And he's got to get some foul trouble. He's got to get inside and get some foul trouble, because right now you're looking at Morez and Lindenberg with no fouls in the first half. So you're
that
not
happen,
they're
Mike.
able.
Yes.
Yeah. And then Mara only has 1. So you're looking at, that means Illinois is shooting threes and they're shooting from outside. I think it's actually pretty amazing Illinois is tied up in the rebounding.
Yeah, and I don't want people thinking, because I know they cry and whine a lot because I complain about officials. Nobody said anything about officiating tonight. It's not even an issue thing. So, save that for another podcast. But that's not Illinois' problem. This game is there for the taking. When you look at it, because you're right, Mike, Michigan does not play great. They're capable of it. They're capable of putting a lot of points on the board, and so is Illinois. And I think the team right now that comes out in not the first 5 minutes, but the first 7 minutes of this game, if Illinois can counter and close the gap or take a lead, I like their chances. If they don't, I'm going to tell you right now, they're going to go home with another L. And to me, this is why last weekend's loss was so bad. This is what was so bad about last weekend, and it still burns me, and it's been 6 days, and I'm still upset about that one. Can't change it. But you knew what was coming into town, and you don't let these games slip away. You can't. And this is home, so.
Yep. And I do think I actually think the first 2 to 5 minutes are really important every half coming out. And I think if I'm Michigan, I'm going to throw a haymaker and see if Illinois can take it. So, folks, they're heading back out. We will be back 10 minutes after the game is over. 10 minutes after the game is over. Eye on the Illini Live. Until then, folks, go Illini.